Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me again today. This is another episode of Podcast with Elena, and today we're going to be discussing the topic of ITIN mortgage loans. It is a difficult topic because in the past, it was very hard to obtain a mortgage loan using an ITIN number. Today with us is mortgage advisor sam.akisanmi, and he is with American Pacific Mortgage. They have a line of products that might be able to help those ITIN holders who are currently looking to enter the home market. So Sam, before you start, let me just say a couple of words about my blog. So I have a blog. You might have seen my other videos. They're all some way related to way of acquiring a mortgage, whether it is with a low credit score, no credit score, ITIN number, or any other combination of elements that make it a little bit more difficult to obtain a loan. So if you encounter yourself in a situation where you don't know where to start, scroll through my blog and see if one of my videos will be able to help you. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest. So Sam, this is his contact information. He's going to be talking today about ITIN loans, but ITIN loans is not the only thing that he does. Before we finish our episode today, he's going to say a few words about different types of loan that he offers. But right now we're going to focus on ITIN first. This is his cell phone number, his email address, all of that information, including that loan link in at the bottom, is going to be in the description of this video. So do not worry, you don't need to jot it down. I'm going to put it in the video description. Without further ado, let's get started on the topic of ITIN loans. So Sam, go ahead and tell me, how do people apply for ITIN loans?
So first of all, thank you for the introduction, Elena. I'm very blessed to be here. I'm very happy that you invited me for your podcast. So when it comes to ITIN loans, the first thing you do is the same as any other loan. You just talk to a lender and you start on the application. Applications can come in, many different forms. In my case, I have an app that you can actually download on your phone to do an application, and they usually take, between 10 and 15 minutes. So not a lot of time, and it tells the lender, all about your financial situation and allows them to accurately determine which loan program that you may fall under.
Right, and a lot of people ask me, I'm afraid to start an application process because I have heard that it negatively affects my credit score. What would you say to that?
So there's different, let me put it this way, right? There's different schools of ideas when it comes to that, right? On one side, from a lender's perspective, they may view that as, hey, look, you're ready or you're not ready, right? So when I pull the score, one inquiry really isn't going to be the deciding factor whether you can or cannot get the loan. While at the same time, I understand, you may have had too many inquiries, right? So that may prevent you from, talking to another lender. So in that scenario, what you would do is you would talk to your lender and be like, hey, I've had inquiries in the past and I prefer to do a soft pull, which is something that lenders can actually do. Soft pulls still tell us the credit score that you're working with, and it won't affect your credit at all. So when it comes to affecting your credit score, it's just having that conversation with the lender that, hey, if possible, I'd like to do a soft pull so it won't affect my credit. I typically like to do soft pulls first. A lot of the time people aren't planning to buy immediately, which is very normal. They're looking to buy, a month, 2 months down the line. And so I do a soft pull just so I can see, where we're at currently and what we need to do to get there.
Okay, sounds good. Now, can you speak just for a second about mortgage loans, because a lot of buyers are not really aware of how mortgage loans affect their applications. Can you just say what are the current mortgage loans that you would think will apply to ITIN loans?
So when it comes to mortgage loans, right, I would say there's four main ones. There's the USDA, which is, you're buying farmland or out there, not really in the main city And that loan is 0% down. There's the VA loans is typically for veterans. That's also the 0% down. There's also one for FHA. FHA is a government insured loan that helps a lot of first-time home buyers, which, by the way, you don't technically have to be a first-time home buyer to get FHA. And then there's conventional, which is the one where if you have, good credit, good income, that's typically the best one to go for. And so those are really the FANE, four qualified mortgages backed by Fannie and Freddie. And so when it comes to loan limits, that depends entirely on your location. Some areas may have loan limits of up to, I believe they were updated for 2021. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know for now, like conventional is like 548,000. FHA is like 4,000, 1,100. And why loan limit is important is because when you're shopping at that high of a price tag, you may be required to put even more as your down payment in order to get under that loan limit so that your loan does not become a jumbo loan, right? When a loan becomes a jumbo loan, you have to put down more. The interest rates are typically higher. And so a lot of people like to stay within that loan limit so that they can get the best pricing that they can.
Okay. And I know that a lot of people who are just starting the process are not thinking about approval and underwriting, but from a standpoint of this loan being very specific type of a loan, do you foresee any approval or underwriting issues that you would like for them to keep in mind?
And that's the interesting thing about my industry, man. There's no loan case file that's the same. Everyone's situation is different. Something may come up that literally no one in the entire, not the realtor, not the seller, not the lender, not the title company, not the processor, that no one saw coming, right? And then there are some times when everything is, as smooth as butter. And so the best thing that we can do as professionals in our industry is to make sure that we go through all the check boxes, make sure that when we're giving people pre-approvals, we give them qualified pre-approvals, not just, something slapdash that, you didn't really take a close look at, that, a number of issues could arise when you're in underwriting. And so that's how I do my business. I try to, people know me that I typically give pre-approvals pretty quickly, but it's only when I'm absolutely sure that I can close this loan. Otherwise, I make sure to do my due diligence to make sure that I'm not setting up people for failure. And I think that's something that a lot of loan officers need to do as well. And the experienced ones do that too. And so that's why they have successful closing. And so if you take your time to make sure you do the front end correctly, everything that comes in the back end becomes much more smoother. So from the standpoint of the client, all you can really do is make sure that whoever you're working with, they're experienced. Don't just go with, whoever's willing to give you the best discount, whichever realtor is willing to give you the lowest fees. Don't do that, right? That's how a lot of people, end up getting into trouble and not getting the home that they want. And so that's why it's very important to do your due diligence.
Question number 4 or 5. How long did the process take? Because a lot of people contact me and say my rent is expiring at the end of the month, today the 12th, and I decided to buy a house instead, and they have an ITIN, right? Realistically, what should they be considering as the most realistic timeline for them?
So that's interesting because it's the exact same thing as I said previously, that no loan case file is the same. There's some that can be very quickly done within, that normal stretch of 30 days. Some take 45, some take 15. It really just depends on how simple your case file is. And I'd consider a simple case file is that, hey, I'm ITIN, but I have the money. It's in the bank account. It's been there for 60 days. There's no other co-bars. It's just me. I have a credit score. I have a really good credit score. I have no complicated trade history, trade lines. I own a W-2 job. And so, when it comes to that, I would consider that a simple case file. That's step by step. But some people have, complicated situations. Some people have, money lying in a different bank somewhere. Some people haven't seasoned their money. Some people have, self-employed. Some people have, all these different, some people don't have credit scores. So it's just so many different things that could play into a part of, how long this process should take. But that's why it's so important to have that beginning conversation so that you can prepare for that. Right. And that's what I like to do. In the beginning conversation is very important that when you're doing that application, that's why the application is so important, because now it will tell the lender what you're dealing with so that I can, we can prepare yourself. So, we can look at your loan case file and say, okay, this can take, somewhere between 30 to 40 days. And so, it's really just depends.
Okay, sounds good. But it sounds like 30 days is pretty much the standard.
30 days
right?
is normal. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
30 days is normal.
Okay. Sounds good. Now, let's talk a little bit more in detail about the different scenarios where ITIN loan can be issued. So walk us through all these 4 scenarios and how do those scenarios actually affect the approval?
So this one's a little bit quick. I can only speak for, what my company is able to offer. And that's why it's important, talk to your own lender. They may be offered different programs with, different guidelines. But when it comes for me, I have ITIN in the form of whether you have a work visa, whether you don't have a work visa, and whether you have a credit score or whether you don't have a credit score. And so, a lot of people, they come to this country and they tend not to have work visa. And likewise, some people, they have an ITIN number, but they didn't even know that they could actually build credit with it. And so, I think having more programs available with diversity like this is, just helps in general with people who fit in these buckets. And if you don't fit in any of these buckets, which you'd fit in the, no work visa, no credit score, but it just helps you. And it helps you know that, hey, okay, I may not be able to buy a house now, but 6-8 months down the line, I have a chance. Sam, you're telling me all I need is a work visa and a credit score. I already pay all my bills on time. I already pay off my credit cards all the time. Right. And so, these are just the basic qualifications of what you need to get started or what you don't need to get started.
So tell me, can they obtain the ITIN loan without the work visa?
Yes.
And without the credit score?
Yes.
Okay. So anything else that you want to add to this slide, or should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
All righty, let's break down this scenario.
So this is going to be a little bit messy since these are combining multiple programs, which, they each have their own additional guidelines to everything. But a lot of people, they come out to us and they say, hey, I have 10% down. What can I get? With 10% down, you're typically going to want to have a great credit score. For my program, it's required that you have a work visa for 10% down. And the documentation is required. You can either do bank statements or a traditional doc. And I put at the bottom right there that traditional docs are considered either having a W-2 or a 1040 tax return. And then, of course, all through.
For how many years?
Yes, ma'am.
How many years?
For how many years? 2 years.
So they need 2 years of tax returns being filed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's traditional docs. 2 years tax returns. And
if they don't have 2 years filed, let's just say that they filed 1 year only because they only been in the country for less than 2 years, then the bank statement supplement or replace the second tax return, or how does it work?
Yes, you can also do bank statements. However, with the bank statements, it's very important to know that that one is going to be 24 months of bank statements. So 2 years.
Okay, so you need 2 years of bank statements, and if those bank statements are not from Texas or not even from this country, would that work?
No.
No, it needs to be in this country, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Alrighty.
And then, the next category is 15% down. Now, this one, I have multiple programs available for 15% down. I have one that, your credit score has to be above 700 and one where your credit score has to be above 660. And then that depends, whether you have a work visa or not, that may change. And then it goes from 24 bank statements to you only need 12-month bank statements. And so that reduces the longevity of it. The same traditional documents, which are, always welcome. And all three of these are going to be owner occupied.
And could you clarify what you mean by owner occupied?
That means that you plan to live in the property.
So they cannot buy it as a rental and put somebody else in the house, right?
Yes. You'd have to get I'd recommend getting probably hard money if you're looking to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say credit score with trade lines, what's considered to be trade lines?
Trade lines are, for example, if I have a card with Bank of America, that's a $300 max on it with $20, right? That's a trade line. If I have if I bought a TV off of Best Buy and I did 12-month payments, that's a trade line right there. So it's just your credit history of debt that you've incurred, and it shows how well you're paying on those, whether you have lates or not. And so and that dives into these are just baseline guidelines. There's additional. There's no way I could put everything on here, right? But there's additional guidelines to these guidelines, and so that's why these things are always so complicated. But you don't want to have trade lines, and then let's say if you don't have trade lines, right? That goes to our 20% down or more, where you don't need to have a credit score required, but that is 25% down. And so you're going to need to have the money to back up, since banks can't check, whether you're a good payer or not. And this one, you don't need to have a work visa. So that's why I left it blank. And it's the same, traditional doc or 12-month bank statements.
Okay. So as long as you have, let's just transfer this scenario. If you have 680 plus, but you don't have a work visa and you have 12 months of bank statements, hypothetically with 20% down, you should already be able to obtain a mortgage, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Just making sure. And if you don't have a credit score, whether or not you have a work visa or not, you have a 25% down payment because you have no credit score, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sadly, when it comes to, ITIN, you're going to be required to put down more than, the other traditional mortgages that I've talked about previously. And hopefully in the future that changes, hopefully in the future we find a better way to qualify people with ITIN and help them get better programs that allow them to put less down. But until then, is pretty much going to be 10%.
Question to you.
Yes,
While
ma'am.
we're on a topic of down payment, let's just say very hypothetically that the family has a mother or a grandmother or even, some uncle, he's in another country, let's just say he's in Mexico, but he's willing to send them the money to put toward the down payment. Tell me about the seasoning of the money.
So, and seasoning has guidelines too, that's how fun this game is. Sometimes seasoning typically is required 60 days. But there's some program that requires it only for 30 days. And then there's some programs that allow, a maximum of how much gift fund you can actually receive. And so that's why, that's a big, it's possible, but, it may be limited depending on your own situation.
But hypothetically, very hypothetically, they could put, let's just say, pull 1% from uncle, 1% from, dad, another 2% from, another beneficiary who, not beneficiary, but some kind of person who wants to help them to acquire this property. And let's just say two families, maybe it's sister and her husband and another sister and her children want to join together just because the down payment is so high, right? So hypothetically, the combination of different families pulling the money together and some gift money coming in from potentially overseas, some of it from maybe from their own savings. As long as the money been in a bank account for 60 days, they should be able to use that. Now, if they have the money for 60 days, is it considered gift money or is it already in their, just part of their savings?
It's part of their savings.
So they don't need to declare it as gift money, right? So the limitations in the gift money will not apply.
Yes. But it gets interesting because then you have to think about, well, if it's in your savings, right, depending on the loan product, you may be doing bank statements. So, so it may show these deposits coming in and an underwriter may be like, hey, who's this?
Why do we have $67, dropping into the account, right? Okay.
Yeah. And so then you'd have to explain that, this is just what my family does. And just helping me prepare to, buy a house. And it's something that we've been planning. And the underwriter may require a note from each of these people saying that, it's money that's not required to be paid back.
Okay. All righty. Do you have anything else to add or should we move on to the next topic?
Let's go to the next one.
All righty. Let's go ahead and look at the important information to keep in mind. Go ahead.
So I just want to give, just small tidbits that I think a lot of people should think about. When I get a lot of clients coming to me for ITIN, a lot of them don't, they keep their money in cash, which is generally a bad idea. You want to keep your savings in a bank. And I know a lot of people hate banks. I get that. But just when it comes to buying a house, 60 days minimum, typically you want to keep it in a bank account. And you also want to make sure if you're self-employed, I see a lot of business owners do this. They tend to write everything off. However, if you do that, it reduces how much you make on paper. And so if you're trying to do a traditional doc and you're doing 2 years of tax returns on paper, it's going to show you making far less than what you actually made those 2 years. And so that's why if you're preparing to buy a house, you may want to reconsider doing that. And then another thing I see very recently is that people just generally not knowing that you can still build credit, even if you don't have an SSN. If you have an ITIN number, you can still build credit. It's never too late. The saying is that, bad credit is better than no credit. When you have a credit score, it makes all of this easier. Like we saw before, for no credit score, you're going to be putting down 25%. That's not a small amount. And so, taking the time, 6 to 8 months to building your credit score, getting help from, there's groups on Facebook that you can join that's all about building credit, especially if you're already, paying bills on time, paying your car note on time. You have no reason not to start building credit and take advantage of that. And so I just want to give these little tidbits out there just so, people who don't know can know.
Okay. What's next?
And so finally, just to end things off, it's like I've been saying this entire time, a lot of these different things, there's just so much guidelines and it's impossible to, tell you every little thing that's about it. For example, if you're underneath a certain credit score, you may be required to have a certain number of trade lines. Right. And so that's why it's always, always, always best. Please talk to a lender, ask questions so we can help you get a house. I love ITIN. I talked with Elena that I'm trying to learn Spanish, man. This is a really underserved community, especially in the state of Texas. They're the biggest community. They're very, very responsible with their money. And so it's just becoming educated and knowing more about, what it takes to actually get home ownership. And so that's why I highly encourage, talk to a lender to go over your specific situation. There is no two loan case files that's the same. Everyone is different.
Okay. And just to remind you guys, if you need to reach out to me for whatever reason, my contact information will be posted in the description of this video and also on the screen. But most importantly, this is Sam's contact information. So now you know at least a little bit what to expect. If you feel that you have just enough information to really think that you might be a good candidate for this program, but don't understand all the details yet, the best thing that you can do is to contact Sam directly. So his phone number and his email are going to be in the description. If you click on this link, Sam, will their credit be pulled?
No. If they click on that link, that is my application link. If you just want to do an application, it'll just show up in my email that you've done an application. And like I said, I usually like to contact people before I even start doing anything to talk to them about their situation. And so that is not an auto pull on your credit. You have nothing to worry about. And so again, don't be afraid to do an application. That's the only way that, lenders are going to be able to help you.
All right. Thank you so much. That was sam.akisanmi, and hopefully we'll see him again. Now, before you go, Sam, I know that you're really big on ITIN loans. Are there any other loans that you're offering?
Yes. So, ITIN is just honestly a very small part of what I do. I typically work with a lot of first-time home buyers. Like I said, I have a whole slew of loan programs available. I'm really big on FHA. I love FHA and conventional loans as well. And so, and I'm trying to become, learn more about ITIN, how to get people into homes. I'm trying to learn more about non-QM options, national buyers, right? Those are people who are really starting to actually come into play. And so just in general, anything about your mortgage or, hey, if you want to refinance, a lot of people don't realize that rates are increasing. I literally get, like 5 text messages every day to my phone about rates. And so rates are increasing. And so people are thinking that, they should wait next year. And I'm like, no, it may get worse next year. And so just in general, any question about mortgage or the home buying process, please contact me and please, follow up on Elena's blog channel.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm guessing
Absolutely.
we will see you again. Until then, the next time.